Good morning, everyone. Brian here with BMK Magic Explorations. You can kind of see that I'm back to my more woolly appearance, but this morning we're not here to worry about me, or at least not what I look like, but rather we're here as part of my way of celebrating Beltane, which is, it's a festival, Sabbath, or holiday, if you will, which it has ancient roots, it's believed, and was part of those celebrated in what's known as I forget if it's pronounced Gaelic or Gallic diaspora, which not entirely exclusively, but primarily encompasses Ireland, Scotland, the Isle of Man, among other places. And is commonly associated in the modern day with Celtic Neopaganism and Wicca, though it can also be found somewhat in Neo-Druidry, and to my surprise, since I hadn't found much on this, in Germanic Neopaganism and Heathenry, it is also found a bit. So it's another one of those which is on the wheel of the year and is maybe not quite universal, but pretty well makes the rounds. What it basically celebrated for paleo-pagans back in the day, going back to ancient times, was kind of a way to ring in spring. It was a time when they would take the cattle and other herded animals out to summer pasture, and as it is now, it would be celebrated on May 1st. As a matter of fact, it's kind of a predecessor of later May Day celebrations, or the later holiday that was known more primarily as May Day, which is a bit altered, but they're still kind of connected. Some may be familiar with that. And I'll go over that in just a bit. Anyway, back for Paleo-Pagans, it was one of those which was, well, you could say it was the AOC, sorry, I'm not sure if I'm mispronouncing that, or fairies or spirits. You could say it, either fairy or spirit would be the proper, they're just synonyms. A lot of the rituals and things that they did to celebrate this were done basically to appease them in hopes of bringing good fortune and good luck. And as opposed to some of the other Sabbaths and festivals that we would find on the wheel of the year now, and which were celebrated back then, a lot more of them were focused more on the agricultural, crops and all aspect of things. And well, how do you say, Beltane was also another one that was a seasonal festival, seasonal holiday, seasonal Sabbath, and still is. And its focus is more on the horticulture side, even though there is some, wanting to protect and bring good fortune, good luck to crops too. It's focused more on the cattle, the livestock, on horticulture, it's more for shepherds and farmers. That's what's more being focused on, or what was being focused on. And pretty much still is. You might be surprised that a lot of the things that we're about to go over with the paleo period of it are still pretty much the same now, with maybe a little bit minor variation here and there. But anyway, things that they would do is like, I almost forgot to mention, even the Neo-Druids would fall in, now that I think about it, into that category. I think I may have. I'm a little tired. But anyway, the Neo-Druids or the Paleo-Druids too, it's found there. We'll go over that again in a bit. But back in the day, in some places, the Paleo-Druids would light large bonfires, 2 of them. It'd be a community thing, And they would drive their cattle, sheep, whatever, through them, and try to get them covered, the smoke on them and all, as a way of kind of cleansing and blessing them. And later on, as those fires would die down, they'd take the ashes and rub them on them or toss them on them, and even on themselves, because they were also looking at bringing good fortune and good luck for their own health too of the individual person. And well, there were other things too, like flowers like marigold and hawthorn, which were either yellow or white, would commonly be placed within the doorways of people's homes and in window seals. And they would also commonly be made into little bouquets, which were kind of known as a maypole, not the one that we think of from the later May Day traditions, but these bouquets of maypoles, as they would call them. There would be the community would judge like who had the nicest one, and there might be some type of prize given out. Neighbors might even try to steal the ones of their neighbors who thought they had a nicer maypole bouquet than they themselves had. And those were just among the few things that they did. Other things it kind of varied depending on region, but there would also be visits to things like sacred wells, where people would, mostly for their own personal health in this case, would walk, how you would say, sunwise from east to west while praying over to the AOC, the spirits, fairies over it, and maybe some local believed in gods and goddesses. Mm-hmm. And commonly, they would leave as offerings coins. So yeah, they would go to these sacred wells for that purpose. And it was also believed that the first water drawn on Beltane from the well would be the most blessed. It would bring the best fortune to whoever drew it. So you'd kind of want to try to be the first one there to do it, if you could. Boy, I could just imagine the rush for something like that back then. And anyway, that's a lot of what went into it all. And basically, these days, with Beltane today, it's not a lot changed in many cases. Most of that stuff is still kind of done and all. The main difference is about mid-last century, about the 1950s, the older, ancient paleo traditions kind of died out as more of a public thing, though they have been kind of revived in many places as kind of, a public cultural event, and done that way. And some, especially Neopagans of various types, do celebrate personally, and there are some public observations of Beltane to this day. And then, of course, as time went by, it evolved more into May Day, which, if you're not familiar with it, I don't know as much about, in a general sense, but it's still a similar concept in a way. Basically, a wooden pole called a maypole is commonly erected, which you could even do at home if you have what you need to do it. And then there are ribbons, which are, people will take a ribbon and there will be dancing as you go around it and kind of wrap the ribbon around. Kind of as a symbol. It has a symbolic meaning, which I'll go over in just a sec. Anyway, basically, with modern Neopaganism, again, we can find it a little bit in Germanic Neopaganism or heathenry. It's certainly in most of the traditions of Wicca and Neo-Druidry, where it is actually known there as Kalanmai, or Kalanmai. That's Calanmai. Sorry if I slaughtered the pronunciation. And it's very similar, and a lot of it's, in that case, seems to be drawn from and takes from the Welsh. More Welsh. The Neo-Druids take a little bit more from the Welsh on that one. And of course, all this, I forgot to mention, like when doing the Ostara 2024 video, that, I also will try to mention about when the time, okay. When I'm talking about all this, mostly I'm talking about, how and when it's going to be celebrated pretty much in the northern hemisphere. which it doesn't differ too much for the southern hemisphere, except for since things and seasons are flipped around, all the dates tend to fall about opposite. So in this case, if you are a southern hemisphere neopagan or other magical observer of whatever type, it would fall on November 1st instead. And I've been meaning to, start when I'm doing these videos, go ahead and include, the southern hemisphere difference, which is usually mostly just a difference of date. Typically, Northern Hemisphere Beltane is just celebrated, on May 1st. Like I said, May Day is what came along a bit after, and if you think about May Day, it makes sense. It's easy to remember, May 1st. So Beltane would be about the same as May Day, May 1st. Even though it is commonly, in some of the religions and traditions, is more celebrated a combination of April 30th through May 1st. Me, I personally just stick to May 1st, so doesn't matter. Now, anyway, what types of things could you actually do to go ahead? Well, then again, I should go over, just go over a little bit about with Druidry and all, but anyway, like I was trying to say before I sidetracked myself, it's also found in most of the Wiccan traditions too. Some of heathenry and Germanic neopaganism, and darn, I'm losing my train of thought here. And a number of others too. I mean, it kind of makes the rounds, as I had said a bit earlier. So not entirely universal, but it is one that can be found among many, and there are some variations. Now, I don't know how the meanings and all for them are for each one, Now, in modern neopaganism, or just neopaganism, why do I even need to say modern? I mean neo, the word which means new, telling you it's modern is right in the name, so duh. Anyway, and like I've always said, I'll say neopaganism and paleopaganism so I can differentiate which part we're talking about here, because again, I like to go over more of the facts and his scholarly or academic knowledge, even though I'm not a scholar or academic myself. But I like to kind of emulate them and be as factual as possible. Though there are plenty of others who do this a lot better than me and probably seem like they don't lose their little thought train as much. I can be a bit weird. So sue me. I'm a syncretic eclectic neopagan witch, as I put it. Should kind of just stand to reason that I'm a bit odd or a bit different. I think a lot of us are, or at least could call ourselves fairly unique. And that's something to be proud of. But anyway, when it comes down to the neopagan stuff, I don't know about everything, like the significance and all. Since this one's more or less, just a ringing in the summer seasonal thing as a festival, solstice or Sabbath, not solstice in this case, it's not necessarily, or as a holiday, Sabbath, and festival, it's more just seasonal and about ringing in the beginning of summer, pretty much. So there's not, I guess you could associate gods and goddesses, whatever deities you want with it, but there are none that I've found which are necessarily particular and have to be, or should be, so not too much more about there. Though, I have found, in Wicca at least, not all, it's not universal, but a lot of times the traditions look at it as though, this is symbolic of the time when the goddess and god are entering their May phase or their May guises, and when they will come to the point of having their sexual union, which is kind of what, for that, for them, that's kind of what the wrapping of the ribbons around the maypole would be kind of symbolically going ahead, and that's the symbolism there. As the ribbons are being wrapped around, you're seeing the masculine part of the union come together, and the ribbons and pole, as they are combined, there's your union. Well, maybe that's not entirely it, you know. I may be a bit off there, but I had read about that that's part of what it's supposed to be about in terms of the ritual. And like I said, if you want to erect your own maypole and do that, and can, great. That's one okay way to celebrate it. There's also, you know, in the Wiccan traditions, at least the ones that look at it that way, that the seed of the green man is part of the what comes out of the sexual union between the god and the goddess. So, you know, seed, fertility, seed impregnation. I'm not going to go into all that. I mean, this is not entirely how you say kitty channel, but I'm certainly not trying to be all that explicit too much. We are adults here, but hey, I don't know who might be letting their kids watch this, so I'm going to be a bit careful. Though forgive me if I don't always watch it as much as I should, or watch my mouth as well as I should. Thinking, what do I care? If anybody holds it against me, your problem. Anyway, and that's basically what the significance and symbolism, the kind of lore that goes into it for the Wiccan traditions would be about. Most of the others, it's more or less mostly about just, you know, bringing in the beginning of summer. Which is kind of funny because to me, you know, the summer season's really more or less, let's see, really it'd be the end of spring, you know. Okay, December, January, February, winter. March, April, May, spring. June, July, August, fall. September, October, and November. Wait. Yeah, I did that right. December, January, and February would be our winter. Spring, March, April, May. June, July, August, summer. And fall, October, September, October, November. Yeah. No, I must have missed one in there somewhere. Again, I'm a little tired. So it's a little bit weird, but I can kind of get where, you know, how some of these are a bit differently timed than we might think. I mean, the seasonal changes, depending on what part of which hemisphere you're in, can be a little bit different. So, it is what it is. But yeah, that's basically the significance all around, is that it's supposed to be about bringing in the beginning of summer mostly. Excuse me. I've got a bit of an itch here. And, well, that is a pretty great thing to be celebrating, since that's what we basically are about in a way, you know. We observe the seasonal changes, how nature progresses throughout the year, and what parts we do and can play in that. Now, as for your own ways to celebrate, your own ritual practice, there's some things you can do, kind of like you could do with Ostara. You could try to be up for the sunrise if you have the chance, like I'm planning to be this morning. So I may take a little bit of a nap between now and then. I mean, I do these videos pretty early when it's still going to be dark out, so that I don't have to worry about that big window there letting in enough sunlight to really put a glare on the screen. And that just, I've had that happen before with my other retro gaming channel early on, and learned you want to try to do this when it's dark. It's just easier to avoid it that way. And, well, some other things so you could try to be up with the sunrise. And you could also try to do some of your cooking with some of the seasonal greens. And, since, you know, one of the things that was trying to be blessed, you know, was, besides by Paleo-pagans, was, besides their livestock, was also, they'd worry about, you know, their dairy, too. You could also, you know, anything that you'd make with greens and milk, you know, would be good ideas to involve in your cooking or whatever you're preparing somehow. And let me see. Well, you can also try, if you are able to go outside and have your own fire. It doesn't necessarily have to be a bonfire, but get a fire going. Or if you can't, you could just substitute indoors a red candle. Kind of like the little image that I shared, I guess it was a couple days back, making some of those suggestions. Those are some things you could do. Or you could find you uh, some flowers that are white and yellow, and try to make yourself maybe, a garland, that you could wear, or a crown, there's a lot of things you could do. I mean, it's up to you what you decide to dedicate to your way of observing. Me, again, my videos like this are one of my ways of doing it. And I do these things because even though I can be somewhat of a goof off and maybe come off a bit more odd than others at times with it, I just like to, spread information. And this all with BMK Magick, Explorations is basically my way of contributing to both YouTube with it and also to the community of neopagans and magic of both types, supernatural and stage magic or illusion, to the communities both ways, besides just contributing to YouTube. And it's also one of my other ways of expressing my passions. So I'm not suggesting necessarily, if you're not a YouTube content creator, go start a YouTube channel and do exactly what I'm doing now. You could if you want to, but it would be another thing you could think to do. Anyway, hopefully it seems like this video is running a bit shorter than mine on Ostara 2024, so that's a good thing. I don't like for these things to drag out super long. Who would watch them if they got that long? And the way my phone does when I record like this, if it's too much over a half hour, typically it'll split into 2 parts anyway, and I'd rather not have that happen. Anyway, I also do have a few recommendations and links here from my preferred YouTubers, the content creators who I personally am subscribed to and enjoy their content, and who do a lot of this a fair deal better than I do, at least in my view. Maybe some do think I do a fairly decent job here. Sure, I only got 8 subscribers so far, but this channel's only so old, so, takes time. Anyway, the first is Jacob Todson. He goes over some of the old, in kind of documentary format, some of the ancient traditions and how they're celebrated modern day to day, including what some of the public ones are, which I wouldn't be as familiar with, or I would have mentioned them. Hey, this is a lot to go over. We'd be a lot longer if I tried to include everything. I really don't have the time or patience to research it to that degree. You get a pretty good overview from me, and anyone can feel free to, go ahead and suggest to me some things I might include, if I ever redo it or if I do this again. Yeah, with the Will of the Year stuff, it probably will be a seasonal yearly thing, so. And I'll try to give it a little variation each time and do a bit better each year. So anyway, anyone can go ahead and suggest to me something you think that I might include later on, or try to bear in mind for next time. Anyway, Jacob Todson, his is in kind of documentary format, and he includes a lot more than me on both the paleo parts and the modern neopagan ones. So, and then Hearthwitch has 3 for us. The first 2, she talks about how to celebrate, and the third one, she talks about how to do a Beltane altar. And then Scarlet Ravenswood has one video on celebrating Beltane, and then a new subscription I just added early on Monday, as a matter of fact. Magical Crafting goes over how the crafting and some rituals, basically how to craft rituals, basically Magical Crafting goes over, how you can craft your own rituals for in any of this, for whatever occasion. It doesn't necessarily have to be for a Sabbath, festival, holiday, whatever. And it's pretty good. They're mostly, just suggestions and all, but it's also stuff you could certainly incorporate for yourself if you want to into your own personal practice. And so they go over some for Beltane, and It's a pretty nice video, and it's also not too long, but informative. Some good ideas there. So anyway, I will leave recommendations and links for you guys to those, which will be 6 videos, and 6 links to 6 videos. In the meantime, if you enjoy this channel's content, please feel free to like, share, and subscribe. And please don't hesitate to leave any questions, comments, or suggestions down in the comment section below. Everyone have a blessed Beltane, and remember to try to do what you can to put a bit more magic into your lives, and hopefully I and this channel have helped to do a little bit more of that. Take care, and blessed Beltane, everyone.